Yeah, that's Alicia with Bongo Roach. Let me tell you why we became vegetarians. That man sat in the back of our rental car and he talked about vegetarian. Put it all in one sentence. No man, you mustn't kill the pets of the planet and bury their carcass in your body. You become a walking cemetery.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
You're never going to enjoy a steak as much after that comment. I've had steak since that comment. Not many, but a few over the 10 years. But that's how you view it. You're killing the dumb animals that can't speak. They're supposed to be buried in the ground. And you're putting it through your body. Because if there's two things that are sickening to most human beings. Only two. That's dead flesh and feces. And I think we're not supposed to eat it because it wouldn't be sickening. I mean, if you had to go and order your meal and go out and pick a tree, the garden, and tomatoes and peaches and pears, you would do that. But if you had to go in that restaurant and order chicken, go in the back and cut that chicken's head off, you wouldn't have that chicken.
Right.
You know, and I love a good burger like everybody. And okay, Julia and I still have a little seafood every now and then. And when I was in Guatemala, I had my first steak in 8 years. And it didn't bother me. I wish I could say that night I was sick and threw it up, but I didn't. So I still, as you can tell, working on my diet, but we're pretty much, I'd say, vegetarian with occasional lapses. Thanks to Bongo Roach. Red and Alicia, these elderly gentlemen would take Alicia under guidance and travel around Jamaica with her on the chicken buses, the third taking her from one place to another, and all three of their grandfathers would protect her because a young white woman alone in Jamaica is a target. And she was coming from, you know, Blowing Rock, a well-heeled, rich community in the North Carolina mountains where everybody's driving SUVs and Lexuses, and you're not allowed to park on the public street. If your car's worth under $25,000, they'll tow it. Well, maybe it's not that bad, but they like to tow it. And had to have Guess jeans and all that stuff. And I told her right off the bat, I said, sweetheart, we ain't rich. We ain't ever going to be rich because Mom and I don't care about money. So there's only one thing we spend disposable income, and it's not better label clothes, and it's not going out to fancy restaurants, and it's not getting a new car every 3 years. It's one thing, spiritual adventures. Because you'll always remember spiritual adventure. So every bit of extra money we have, we go and we take a spiritual adventure. And she got into it. So first let me introduce you to the elder Rastas of Jamaica. I'll tell you the story of how we happened to come here. We went down on a family vacation to Jamaica. It wasn't a spiritual vacation. This is 2000. So we go down to Jamaica and just with our two daughters. We meet a couple of elder Rastas working the hotel, and they had such poise and such grace and such kindness. I inquired as to what is your spiritual path? Because these are poor people, but they're working in a hotel, and they said, well, we're not supposed to talk about religion, but we're Rastafarians. We cut our dreads to get the job. And that began, I'd heard a little bit in my hippie days about it, and Julia and I were looking for, we had a third of your life to learn, a lot of you young people in that stage, a third of your life to earn, a lot of you were in that stage, a third of your life to serve. We had hit the third of our life to serve. And we had made the decision that we would take all available money, time, and energy to serve. And for Julia and I, we asked ourselves, how do we want to serve? It was one thing that was real clear to us. We'd written a book called In the Spirit of Business, and in the spirit, another one called The Spirit of Marriage. It's how do you apply unconditional love in your love life and in your work life. So we knew that our path was to teach unconditional love, to remind people, like Kubler-Ross said, only two things in life matter. Love without expectations, unconditional love. And by the way, we're all warped by conditional love. Every one of us has been warped and are daily being warped and forgetting because we've been given conditional love. Oh, now you're a vegetarian. Well, when you're at my house, you'll eat meat. Oh, now you're not going to church with me? Oh, so well, you're wrong. Oh, now you married this person? Oh, now you're not going to use your college education to be a doctor? You're going to get on the road and go to California. Conditional love. And then we don't, you know, they withdraw their love from us. And when they withdraw their love, we do what they say often to handle that. And then we start to be not who we are. And that's why if unconditional love is the answer, conditional love is the problem. Oh, you're a Muslim, I hate you. Oh, you're a Palestinian, I hate you. Oh, you're an Israeli, I hate you. Conditional love. Conditional love. So we decided that we wanted to write a book about, more books about unconditional love. So we go to Jamaica and we meet these Rastas, and then we go on this little bamboo raft tour down the beautiful Rio Grande. And we had a real One Love Rasta man pulling us, Julia and I, down the Rio Grande River. And we had been given a big spliff by our tour guide because Julia got sick on the way up and threw up. She was great. She walked out and she threw up on the side of the road, and there were the two men sitting not far away, and she looked over and she says, "I'm composting your garden." They cracked up. So we're floating down the river, and I had an epiphany, and I said to Julia, I know what the next book's going to be. I'm going to write a book on the Rasta message of one love. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to find the elder Rastas and write about them. And so we went back, and some of my visions maintain, some of them die quickly, some of them are sitting on a shelf for years, and I pull them up. This is a vision that maintained, to have you guys come and do something like this. This one gets built up energy, so a few months later, I saved up some frequent flyer miles. I got every credit card that would offer me 25,000 miles. They were just giving them away like lollipops. And I signed up for every one and got hundreds of thousands of miles. What we've done wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the credit card companies giving 25,000 miles for every time we signed up. So I go down there, and I figure I'm going to go to Jamaica, and I'm going to find the elder Rastas that teach one love. I'm going to do a book with them. And everyone said, well, you know, I hate to say it, man, but you look like you stepped off the golf course in Montego Bay. What makes you think these elder Rastas are going to talk to you? I said, if they don't talk to me because I look like this, they don't need to be in the book. That's conditional love. You don't look like Kelly with dreads. You're not black. Whatever. If they still got that running in their head, then they don't need to be in the book. And so I figured, you know, like one song says, you don't have to dread to be Rasta. Rasta is a divine conception in the heart. And if they didn't know that, then why just keep on dusting, you know, knock the dust off your shoes and keep on going. So I did. And Julia, first I went alone, and all the story is outlined in Rasta Heart. And then Julia and Alicia started coming, and over a 10-month period, we took maybe 10, 12 trips to Jamaica. It changed my daughter, changed us, and we met these elder Rastas. I'm going to introduce you to them. What you need to know about these guys is they were regular guys. They named, before it was Bongo Roach, was Joseph Roach. Before it was Scram, it was Tom Anderson. They were regular guys in their community, went to church, sang the hymns, whatever, and they were regular guys, but they weren't getting it from traditional religion. And they noticed that the Rasta men who've been on that island since the 1930s were peaceful, going through the village, one loved my brother, one loved my sister. They started reasoning with the Rasta man who maybe cleaned up the marketplace or had a little jelly coconut stand or sold organic fruit in the marketplace. And then sure enough, because it's happened tens of thousands of times in that country, their family and their community watched you reasoning with the Rasta man, which they didn't like you doing. They noticed you started to let your locks grow, and you started to give up alcohol and smoke ganja, give up meat and do organic food. They knew where it was going. They knew you were going to become a Rasta, and they knew, this has been going on since the 1930s, you weren't ever coming back. You couldn't get a job easily. The police picked you up easily. Your parents were brokenhearted. Your pastor talked to you. Your friends got upset. They weren't ever coming back. They don't come back. The reason for that is, it doesn't have to be Rasta. When you accept your assignment to teach love to the world, you're not coming back. You're not going to go back to money, pleasuring, power, sexuality, accomplishments. Because that path of teaching love to the world is so mystical, because it's the only path that has the Creator's assignment to it. We can go ego, pleasuring, money, power, and that can give us all that, and it does. But it doesn't have the Creator's vibration, because He's not what He or She assigned to us. But when you get up every day and try to teach love to yourself and to the world as best you can do, it's that simple. You don't have to study big textbooks. You don't have to read the right books or learn to do the right yoga poses or meditation. All those are helpful, of course. All you got to do is make it your intent in life to teach as much love and forgiveness to yourself and to others as you can. I have a much easier time loving the world than I do myself. I can love the world easily. I can love the people I meet easily. Below that is Julia, right? Because we live together. And then below that is myself. I have this biggest struggle loving myself. And then, of course, the people Julia, who I live with 24/7, and then it's easier to love people that you're not so close in on. When you do that, there's a mystical vibration to that path. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, Rasta, doesn't matter. However you best express that. When you do that, so when they're on that mystical path, they weren't ever coming back. But they stay in their villages. Jamaica's not a big place, only 150 miles long. They stay in their village. They now say, my name is Bongo Roach, or Jah Priest, or Jah Lancey, or whatever they've come up with. And they stay there, and they teach love in that village. And they eventually gain the respect. The 4 or 5 men you're about to meet here, they've never had much money. They live in small little lean-tos almost that they create themselves with organic gardens next to it. No real possessions, because unless you can put a block house with gates on the windows, you can't own a TV or computer. It's gone like that in Jamaica. So either you live in a compound where you can't get in, or if you live like these guys live, you don't even bother to own anything other than your clothes and cooking utensils, because it'll be gone. If I were to tell any of these guys that you're about to meet, that's Scram and me at Reach Falls, if I were to tell these guys, tell you what, I'll give you $1 million in the bank. I'll buy you the biggest, apartment in Mobay overlooking the ocean. I'll give you a Mercedes-Benz in your parking lot, in your parking space, but you got to live like that. They would laugh. They say, Robbie, no liberty there, man. No, man. Be away from my people. Be away from my garden. Be away from Jah's world. What these Rastas taught us that other religions aren't teaching are really a couple of key things. The first thing is you have to take care of your physical structure to serve the Almighty as best you can. The more you're willing to get rid of the pollutions, the pesticides, the alcohol, the tobacco, the meat, the more clearly you pick up the Creator's will for you. You don't have to do it to serve the Creator, but you can do it more effectively if you take care of your structure and you feel healthy every day. Obviously, I'm still working on that one. Julia's got it down. The second thing is you have to spend time in Jah's world to know Jah's will. If you spend all your day in a cubicle or sheetrock and glass, it's hard to determine God's will. And I know myself, if I'm having an issue at 3 in the morning, when I wake up at 3 in the morning and worry about, whatever, money, attendance, whatever, Julia's coughing, whatever, it's one thing. But if I go out in that hot tub under the stars, that dissipates quickly. It's like a baptismal pool. So do that whether it's out in your balcony or walk in the park, come into here, whatever. That was the second thing. The third thing is you have to examine yourself to see if what they call Babylonian values have crept into your soul. There are 2 worlds. There's the fallen state of humanity called Babylon. And that's a headspace we all struggle with, every human being. And Babylon is a belief that you're separate from the Creator, separate from the earth, separate from each other. That's a Babylon state of mind, and it leads to an exploitive, commercial, economic, political state that we all have been raised in for the last 5,100 years. That's Babylon. It's the fallen state of humanity. That's why it said when you ate from the tree of good and evil, we lost the garden. When we weren't judging, you're good, you're evil, you're wrong, you're right. Christianity is the only way, Muslims the only way, Judaism is the only way. When we weren't judging, because judging is only for the Creator, and as you heard Dr. Ross said, He's not a judgmental, punitive God. When we began to eat from the tree of good and evil, we fell out of grace, which seemed it wasn't like Adam and Eve killed somebody. No, they just ate a piece of fruit. And for that, all of humanity has suffered. Isn't that kind of overreacting a little bit? I mean, like if Alicia left her guinea pig on the bed and took a crap on the bed and I made her live in a closet for a year. Didn't it seem like a little bit heavy punishment by God to have man? That's not what's being said. When you begin to judge, you fall from grace. The other state is Zion. Zion is, as Ryan mentioned earlier, is a state of knowing who you are, that you're one with the Creator, you're one with all of humanity, you're one with the world. And that's the state we all struggle now to find because we have been brought up in a Babylonian area. So exist more in Zion, and they see their trek as a journey, as you will hear one of the elder Rastas, who's actually a short-haired Rasta, say, from one state of consciousness called Babylon to another state of consciousness called Zion. So here are the elder Rastas of Jamaica.
Well, Robert, can I ask a question before we start? I just want to ask, you brought up the ganja thing.
Huh?
Ganja. I've always had an issue with that.
Well, a lot of people do because we've been educated that way. No one much has a problem if you have a beer or two. No one much has a problem if you get hammered. It's what we've been trained. In the Babylon state, alter your consciousness by going unconscious and getting stupid. No one got inspired drunk. Don't alter your consciousness by picking a weed that grows everywhere on the planet, that doesn't lead to problems, that doesn't have many car wrecks. There's no research that shows this. I mean, you shouldn't operate heavy equipment. I wouldn't want my pilot of my plane to fly high. But, you know, that is a natural plant, and that has caused inspiration. It's remembrance read. It helps you remember. And if you have smoked, how many people smoke ganja? Well, pretty much everybody. And you know, it's a remembrance weed. In the Bible, it makes a very funny statement. The leaves from the tree of life are for the healing of the nation. The leaves of the tree of life are for the healing of the nation. I don't think they're talking about peach leaves or apple leaves, pine needles with that. But yeah, we've been trained to see it that way, so. This is Reach Falls. Why is it? I don't know why I have such bad luck with computers. I think the computer knows it. It started.
Don't stop trying. This one's primitive of mine. Right now, we're twisting from the right. Words to Simon,
Why didn't Bob come back to the roster when he was sick? He went to Germany to
right
get cured.
now, Bobby can't see. Only I stay at Germany. So why are your eyes too blind?
78.
The skin fine, the right. Words to Simon, Mama. Right now, Bobby, can't you see rooms to plant in Germany? So why are your eyes so tight?
So John's plan revealed itself.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's good over evil.
Always
Over evil.
And the truth always reveals itself. The truth coming with no clothes, naked.
And it always reveals itself.
Yeah. Always reveals itself. No clothes.
And a lot.
Why doesn't play the lotto?
Yeah.
He's afraid he'll win. Then he'll be rich. And everybody want money from him. This is his 58-year-old son.
So it has to be in the balance.
Yeah.
So the person that is so balanced with his or herself, that will touches the child, touches the water, he will spill the water, because he or she is the water also. Yeah. He will touches the wind, because he is the wind, or she is the wind also.
You'll see the face at the end.
And all the people in all parts of the world where it is war, they're looking for better treatment.
It's an incredible
They're
reason.
looking for this kind of hearted spirit to rule them. So without this great love, anyone would not have that great kind-hearted spirit from the heart to deal with the massive. They all need this touch, this love touch within the heart, that they can know that these people need to enjoy themselves and they need to be free. People need to be free and live happy on this land. Because born already and who don't born yet. This is here for all of us. Yes, and we need to be happy together to enjoy this earth the right maximum way. Every day I pray for this system, and I can see that my prayer coming up. Yes, it's coming to a perfect standstill where people will be able to jump and shout and say, yes, here comes the day when we fear no more. Yes, that's true. Yeah, man, I know we're going to be on the paradise land now to enjoy all this.
Scrammo. And David, I'll let you guess what he was lighting up there.
I got that.
It wasn't a cigar. No, I brought some cigars for myself. I mean, regular cigars, as well as some remembrance for you. So now we have this book, this incredible book, Rasta Heart, and we decided we have to introduce the book. Where should we introduce it? In Jamaica, because it's a Jamaican, book. It's a book out of the wisdom of Jamaica. When should we introduce it? On Bob Marley's birthday, February 6th. Where should we introduce it? At Bob Marley's home, which is now a museum in Kingston. Bob has been dead 20-some-odd years. He died of cancer in 26 years old. 31 years old, I think it was. So that was my mission. I'm going to go down there 2 months early and set up an intro, and then Julia and Alicia are going to join me. And so the first thing I do when I get to the island, Alicia came down there in Christmas break, and all the hotels would let me stay for free because I would include them in the book, and I was doing the sequel, The Gathering of the Healers. So I got to stay at the hotels, which are pretty empty in Jamaica that time of year in January. And so I was traveling around the island. I realized, well, wait a second, no one's going to listen to me. We're going to hold a press conference. I got to get Mama B's permission, his mother, Bob's mother's permission to use, or his children's permission to use his home. That was going to be difficult because they never let third parties use the home. That's going to be difficult, and who's going to listen to me? We want to introduce the work and say, continue the work of Bob Marley and the Elder Rastas here in Jamaica. Teach one love to the world, because you've got these big bulletin boards all over the island, billboards, this picture of Bob, and it says, one love, Jamaica's message to the world. So we're here to say, continue doing this. I realized no one's going to listen to me. They don't know who I'm, an unknown author, but who would they listen to? I figured it out. I said, I know the best way to do this. So I started asking a lot of Jamaicans one simple question. Who teaches love in your country that almost everyone would agree? Now, if I asked you who teaches love in the United States that almost everyone knows would agree, give me a name or two.
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, that's one name I hear. There's one other. Oprah. So those are the two names I hear. Traditional, non-traditional. You ask them in Jamaica and they'll run off, every person will run off 8, 10 names, and half of them are reggae artists. I got 11 names over and over again. I went to those 11 people over that 7 weeks. I showed up unknown, gave them a copy of Rasta Heart, and I said, you've been named as one of the 11 people in this country that teach love to the people. Will you join me in Bob Marley's backyard? I hope I'll be able to get him. I'm going to go meet with his mother. And 7 of the 11 joined us. You're going to meet them in a minute. And let me tell you the mystical things that happen. I go to the museum to ask if I could use it, and the museum manager says, I'm sorry, no one uses this. You'll have to find a Marley and get a Marley permission. I walk out the door with Scram, and who's in the front yard? Stephen and Damon Marley, the two recording artists that will be performing in the field next door the 11th and 12th of this month. A week from this weekend, Damon Marley, Bunny Wailer, Stephen Marley, and Ross Michael will be in that field across there if you want to come to the Rollix Festival. It'll be mystical. Who's standing there but Stephen and Damon in their father's front yard? And I go up and tell them I'd like to use there. Here's what I want to do. And Damon had a little interest, Stephen none. I'm walking away and this man walks up to me and he gives me a number and he says, I'm their cousin. Mama B is my cousin. She would like what you're doing. Here's her number. Call her. She's over on the other side of the island, Bob's mother. And tell her what you want to do. And me and Scram went over there, made an appointment. We spent an afternoon with Bob Marley's mother. She didn't say a word the whole time. She had a woman there that was Bob Marley's lawyer, Diane Jobson, who queried me. She didn't like this idea. She didn't like I was white. Why don't you stay in your own country and teach love? I said, well, then Bob should have never left Jamaica. Why should he bring a message of one love to the U.S. just because he can sing and I can't? So you saying that your reggae artist shouldn't leave Jamaica, that I shouldn't leave the United States? If you're teaching one love, you go wherever the Creator assigns you. You don't qualify that. She didn't say a word at the end. I said, Mama B, we got to get on the road. I said, what's your... She says, you can use the house. You're on the same mission my son was on. You can use the house. So now I have Mama B's house. I got the 11 people. The press is coming. 2 nights before the event, and one of the people that were coming was a woman named Antoinette Houghton. She's the Oprah of Jamaica. She has her own radio show. She's a lawyer. And she was running on a third-party ticket against Patterson and Seaga. The Prime Minister, the opposition leader, had traded off power for 28 years. Patterson black, Seaga white. Can you imagine 98% black country elected a white man 4 times? They had traded off power for 28 years. She's running against him. She's got 18% of the vote. She's going to be the spoiler. She was named as the Teacher of Love, so we met with her on Tuesday. The event was on a Sunday. On Friday, Scram says to me, we have to go meet with the Prime Minister and Seaga and invite them to come and hear from the Teachers of Love, to big them up, to make them teachers of love, because every leader should teach love to the people. I said, Scram, I have sent a book through a mutual friend of the Prime Minister, but they're not going to, it's Friday afternoon, they're not going to meet with us. I mean, I'm an unknown author, you're a country Rasta. Head of the state ain't going to just walk in to Jamaica House on Friday and say we need to meet with the Prime Minister. Even if we go to the UPP, I mean the JLP headquarters with Seaga, he won't meet with us. And this is at midnight on Friday. He says, Robbie, if the Creator wants us to invite them, they cannot refuse to hear the invitation. Very Zen thing to say. We're on a balcony of this nice hotel in downtown Kingston smoking a spliff, and went in one ear and one out the other. Within 8 hours, that was at midnight, within 8 hours we were meeting with both the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. Had that happen. Next morning at 7:30 we get off the elevator and there's hundreds of well-dressed Jamaicans walking this way. And there is a man named Horace Green, who was Antoinette Houghton's second in command, who we had met earlier in the week. We invited Antoinette. He's walking. We get in line and start just walking with him because he was a real one love person. He turns into a big baldwin. He gives the guard at the gate an invitation, and we're all ushered in. The guard thought we were part of the invitation. We walk in, there's breakfast set up for 400 people. The big sign, the Jamaican Leadership Prayer Breakfast. These are the 400 top business, social, religious leaders, political leaders of the island. People die to get tickets. It means you've arrived when you get to that point. They have an annual prayer breakfast. Who's at the head table? Patterson and Seaga and their wives. They see us walk across and hug Antoinette Houghton, the spoiler. So they're watching us. Who are these 2 guys? Everyone's watching us. Everyone's got suit and ties on. I'm dressed like this. By the way, this is a different black shirt every day. When I go to an event, oh, how many days? 4 days. So I do have, some of them are dark blue. Special occasions, in the evenings I wear dark blue. And then last night I actually wore green one. So we go and sit and we hug Antoinette. Everyone's watching us. And then Scram looks at me and says, well, Robbie, we got to go bring the message to the leaders. I said, Scram, I said, I talked to the Charlotte mayor once briefly, but I never talked to a head of state. Then I thought, but you're right, we got to do it. Josh sent us, Josh put them in our lap. We walk up and Patterson tells the security people to let us through. He's curious who we are. So I go up and Scram goes to Seaga, I go to Patterson. And I said, Prime Minister Patterson, I'm Robert Roskind. I wrote a book called Rasta Heart. I gave it to Colonel Lindo to give to you. Yes, he's got it. He gave it to me. I hope to read it sometime. I said, look, I got to tell you that we're having this event Sunday in Bob's backyard. And we asked a lot of people in Jamaica who taught love, and nobody mentioned your name. I had to say it. I'm not going to, Jah put me in this position. I'm not going to. Jah is the Rasta word for God. It comes out of the Bible. Yahweh, Jah. And everyone in Jamaica knows that term. Some use it, some don't. So I say, you know, but no one mentioned Mr. Siaga either, but we want to have a guest place for you, a place of honor to hear these people. And he kind of smiled, so I knew he wasn't offended. Here you are telling the head of state he's not welcome at some event that you put together with his people. I switch and go talk to Siaga, scram toss to Patterson. Saturday night, the next night, I get a call from Siaga. I'll be sending Babsy Grange, my representative. I get a call from Patterson's aide, Franklin Delano, and he said, Prime Minister is not coming, but he wanted me to tell you, and I quote, best of luck to you, my brother. So I knew there were no bad vibes between me and the Prime Minister. So this was the first event of 54 events we went on to do over the next 2 years in Jamaica. I'll talk about that. And this is in Bob Marley's backyard in 2001. This is Luciano, one of the top reggae artists of the world. He opens the event with a song he wrote for the event.
Where is the sisterly love? Although they move out with the Berlin Wall, that didn't solve the problem at all.
To exercise one love doesn't mean that you like a person, doesn't mean that you seek out their company, it doesn't mean that you allow unloving or abusive treatment by them. It does not mean that you forego justice or reparations for past wrongs committed. For it is only through making amends that our souls are cleansed. You would still get up, stand up for your rights. One love simply means that in your heart you understand that everyone you hold bitterly is also a child of God who has temporarily forgotten who they are and gone astray, and you wish the best for them. You understand that, like you, they were sent here by their Creator to remember their own divinity by learning and teaching love.
This is, to me, this is a very good start. Okay? Because after this and the lighting of the candles and the lamps and the torches, we have to take into action this machine that we're cranking up. I am more than willing. The Jamaican Ministry, big thanks for teaching this idea of the Jamaican family, the Rastafarian House, and the Church and the Shanty, and all those who represent righteousness here. Whatever denomination, whatever religion, I say, I give thanks for everyone who has turned up this evening. That is your good sign that there are people still seeking for love, peace in our community. So with these things in mind, let us focus on justice and love. So I say love and justice, they go together. Bless them.
This is the definition of Rastafari from the Mali heights of consciousness.
Dr. Dennis Forsyth.
From his songs, from his life story, his life history, and from the lives of other Rastafarian brethren, I see Rastafari as multidimensional. It's a mystical, herbal, biblical pathway leading from one state, Babylon, to a higher state called Zion. Jah Rastafari.
Let us teach them how to love.
Antoinette Horton, the Hope of Jamaica.
This is not a voice of vengeance. This voice is to heal. On behalf of all the sisters in this country who raise their children against the odds and who love their children and who love their men. All the sisters who have stood up for their sons and their husbands. We, the women of this country, have never used our strength against our men. We have always used our strength in support of our men. I want to remind them that we love always our sons, always our men. We ask But we are sisters, step up and be part of that powerful healing of this nation. That we continue to do what we always have done, to love and to support and to heal.
You see, there is no miracle greater than love.
Have a job, recording
It
artist.
is God's most precious gift to us. It is not a feeling. It is a daily decision.
It's a daily decision.
Only allow us to live a life that will shine a light.
Reggae artist Denroy Morgan.
The Almighty Creator of the universe.
As we are here to strengthen the work of the Rastaman, the work of Bob Marley, the words of the Rastaman, the word one love. And we believe that if every man possess that one love, I'm not talking about hypocritical love, I'm not talking about carnal love, I'm not talking about partial love, I'm talking about divine love. Jah, the sacrificial one. Glory to the Almighty. If we possess that, then we'll be able to give that and share that. And if we can share that divine love one unto another, we will definitely bring about a healing to the nation.
What's funny is, you know, if you saw that man at the airport or something, I've seen him walk through an area with white people, women have read the purses and move back like that. If you don't pick up his vibe, his countenance is frightening. You see it in our culture. This was such a high, as you can imagine. We decided, Julia and I decided that this was good. Let's now bring the message to the youth. Let's get the conscious reggae artists that are heroes in this country, contact them and said, would you, if we come back and we contact the schools in the ghettos of Mobay and the ghettos of Kingston in the country, would you join us and bring your message down there? So for 2 years, Julia and I and Alicia, every time she had a vacation, we built up mileage, would go to Jamaica and we'd couple up with Abby John and other artists, and we would go into 2 schools a day, mostly in the ghettos. And they would sing, Julia would speak, I would speak. You know I'm going to speak. But I was the warm-up act for the artists, and Alicia would speak, because she was their peer. And they would, we would perform, they would perform, we'd speak to the youth of Jamaica. And we did it, and then we ran out of money and funds after about a year, and the Hotel Association contacted us and said, how come you're not coming back? I said, I'm saving up money. And the Hotel Association said, you're making an impact on the island. If we give you free room and board, would you come more often? I said, yeah. And so every time we would go, we just have to get our mileage. And some nights we stay at Sandals, and some nights we stay in a little guest house. And the nicest was at the Round Hill. They gave us a $2,000 a night villa with 2 help, 5 bedrooms, and a swimming pool. For me and the entourage, and Julia and Alicia and her boyfriend, and Abby John, Maki Conscious. So the country started taking note. And it was really, can you imagine, especially when our daughter's 14, 15, 16 years old. In fact, she would go there and she'd go back to Watauga High School the next day, and her friends would say, you know, Alicia, you have a whole life in Jamaica that we don't really know about. We know you're not going down there laying on the beach and, you know, doing the skis and all that kind of stuff on your vacation. But we know you're doing something, but we don't really know what it must be like. And she thought about it and she went, Jalisha. So we started to go down there, and the press picked us up, and I was on a lot of talk shows, and Julia was with me, and we were on, over the 2-year period, 54 events. We were going to try to turn the crime rate around, and we did. I don't know if we did, but the crime rate, which was going up for years, started to go down, because we're going into the ghettos and telling the kids, forgive, love. This violence, this drugs, the guns is not the way. And they would listen to us, but they would listen to the reggae artists, mostly, who would come all this way for free to do that. And 2,000 to 3,000 kids at one school at a time, and it was the big event of the year, maybe the decade. So let me tell you a story that happened that's more mystical. Bob's 60th comes up. The first one was Bob's 57th. The 6th, we did the 58th, we did the 59th. On the 60th, I get a call from the government. I'm back in Jamaica planning the 60th. And the government calls and says, Mr. Roskind, the government wants to know you're going to do a big 60th celebration in downtown Kingston. I said, we've done it the other 3 years, of course. They said, look, we have a problem. And the government had kept a distance from us. I don't know, you know, the Prime Minister and I knew each other, and he kept a distance. We never used any government funds or help. We're afraid that you're going to eclipse the government's celebration of its own favorite son on its milestone birthday. We can't have that. So we want to work with you. I said, well, first of all, Stephanie Marley, Bob's daughter, is bringing the cake cutting over to our event, and she won't work with the government. Because the Marleys don't like the government. There's only one people that are more powerful than political people, that's Marleys. They're rich, they're millionaires, and no one's going to mess with a Marley, because if the Marleys get up and leave Jamaica, every hotel owner and every restaurant is pissed at the government. So don't you dare offend any Marley. Because Rita Marley, Bob's wife, was already talking about moving Bob's bones to Ethiopia. And Marley is the big attraction for tourism in Jamaica. Tourism is the big money. So the Marleys don't have to take any slack. I said, I have to clear that up with Stephanie. But you know us, no one gets on our stage unless your people tell me they teach love. And I said, so if you agree that no one gets on the stage unless you and I agree they teach love, then I'll join with you and I'll see if Stephanie would. And that guy took so long to answer, I almost wondered if he didn't understand the question. And I knew he did, though. He was thinking that means no politicians get on stage, no social leaders getting on stage, none of our big slack artists like Beanie Man or Butu Band are getting on stage, these big acts that are coming out of Jamaica. He said, I tell you what, except for the Prime Minister opening for 5 minutes, we'll put on the whole production for you and turn it over to you. So Jamaica is turning over their milestone birthday of Bob Marley to a white couple from Watauga County, North Carolina. I couldn't have planned that.
No.
I couldn't have put that together. That's job work there. So I said, okay. And we have a press conference 10 days before. And they call me, Prime Minister Patterson wants you to come with culture and with Bunny Whaler to the press conference. We're going to announce the big concert. I got 28 conscious artists to come on board with Julia and I. Because they'll perform for free for us. They won't do that for the government. So the government could only afford 2 or 3 artists. We got 28 to perform for free for a 6-hour period on a Sunday afternoon on Bob's 60th. So we go to the press conference, and there in the press conference, I'll show you a picture of it after a while, is 4 chairs. Big one for the Prime Minister, Maxine Henry, who's in charge of the event, Stephanie Marley, who's going to throw in with us. The 4th chair should have been for me. Instead, Prime Minister invites Bob Marley's niece to take that chair. But I don't care, because I know he's embarrassed that he's had to do this. The government reluctantly did it. But I don't care. I'm in charge of the concert. So I'm putting my ego in check. Okay, I'm not going to do that. He starts to go on about the concert. And in the middle of his talk, Stephanie Marley stands up and says, I want to stop the press conference. Can you imagine? Nobody stops the Prime Minister or the head of state from speaking. Imagine if Obama's speaking and someone in the audience says, I want to stop Obama from speaking. That's the alpha dog in Jamaica. Nobody stops him. But the Marley can stop him without retaliation. She stops the press conference in this hush, and he was shocked. He's in the middle of his sentence, and you could feel the tension go through the room. And she looks at her Janine, the niece, and says, Janine, would you sit back out there? She looks at me and says, Robert, would you come sit up here? And she says, I want you to know that Robert and Julia Roskind are the ones that put this together. When no one wanted to hear my father's message of one love, this couple came down and went into the ghetto schools and the backcountry schools and brought my father's message. And that's who these reggae artists are performing for, not for the government. Meanwhile, at that point, Prime Minister Patterson asked me to come to the mic, and you could feel the tension in the room. The head of state's just been humiliated by a Marley and now a white guy from the States. I didn't mean to humiliate him. And so I looked out of the audience, and I took a long time, and I couldn't think of what to say to cut the tension, and then it hit me. I looked down and I said, Jacint White. I don't know why, but Jacint White. Cracked everybody up, including the Prime Minister. And so I went on to give my speech, and here's what happened. Vince, on a Saturday, I'm going to show you this in a second. On Sunday's the event. On Saturday, I go to downtown Kingston. They've cordoned off the entire downtown section. They're erecting 20-foot screens every 2 blocks to project. There's going to be a huge crowd. They got a platform over on one side where all the press will have their cameras. It's going to be televised on every TV and radio station. They got a TV camera on a 25-foot boom controlled by a guy with a joystick to project the images down on the theater screens. They show me where Prime Minister Patterson will come in with his armed guard. They show where Julia will stand, Alicia will stand, I'll stand, and how long we have to greet him and how he'll take his entrance and exit. So I figure, okay. So on Sunday morning, the day of the event, I get a call in my office from Delano Franklin, his aide, and he says, Prime Minister Patterson has decided not to open the show. And I know why. He'd been humiliated because he wasn't a teacher of love. At the press conference, he was afraid that he might have the same thing happen. If I were to mention in front of 2 million people watching on TV that everyone we invited was known as a teacher of love, and if I were to say, but Prime Minister Patterson asked to open the show, I wouldn't have ever said that, but that he must have been concerned he could be humiliated. So that night, here's the scene. We go down there at 6 o'clock. There are tens of thousands of people in the street. The stage you're about to see is built for 60 people to play with the National Orchestra, to play the National Anthem. They play the National Anthem. The crowd erupts in joy. And a hush comes over the crowd, and everybody's waiting for Prime Minister Patterson to walk up to the mic to open his milestone birthday. And instead, our 17-year-old daughter walks up to the mic.
Wow.
Could I put this together? No way. No way. And a hush really fell over the crowd. You'll see her in, unfortunately we don't have the film of her speak, but you'll see the footage of her. A hush falls over the crowd. Her image is projected 20 feet tall all down Knutsford Boulevard. She looks out of the crowd, not nervous at all, had no nervousness. Looking at maybe 15,000 people to me once, she says, you know, my parents have been bringing me here since I was 14 years old. And I want you to know that I will always be a better human being for having known the Jamaican people. You've treated us with such love and such kindness and such respect that you've changed who I am as a human being. And she went on and said a few more words about healing the country with love. When she was finished and stepped back before Julia stepped up, the hush remained in the crowd, and it was a pregnant pause for about 3 to 5 seconds, and they all erupted in joy. The next morning, we're getting on a plane in Mobay for Alicia to go back to Watauga High School, and Julia and I to stop at a Chinese restaurant. You go from that back into your mundane life, and we're waiting to get on the plane. This well-dressed Jamaican woman walks up to Alicia at the gate at the airport and says, I want you to know, with all that great talent that followed you, you stole the show. She said, we were watching this in my living room in Montego Bay with my family that had gathered here to see this event, and when you finished speaking, there wasn't a dry eye in that room. And I'm talking about more than 20 people. So that is the mystical life that happens when you devote all available resources to teach love. We get letters, we work in the prison systems here in Morganton and Marion. People tell us of mystical things that happen in prison. You don't have to be out in Jamaica doing concerts. You can be in an insurance company, an architect. You know, you can do work in an office, a school. You can be in prison and have a mystical, mystical life. It's not dependent on your physical condition, your economics, or where you are. The Creator wants to spread love in every pocket of this planet. And you've been given 1/6 billionth of it to deal with. That's all. Just 1/6 billion. What the other 6 billion people do between them and their Creator. You're not asked to stop every war, to heal every exploitation, to clean up the pollution. You're just asked to bring love into your path. So let me show you this 6-minute clip, and then we'll break for lunch. And Danny Diaz is teaching. I know, I'll tell you. So Danny will be teaching flute music. And this is Bob Marley's 60th. got the DVD in there. Let me just see if it's going to boot itself up. Ah, there we go.
February 6, 2005 would have been the 60th birthday of reggae legend Bob Marley. The occasion was marked by a huge concert on Watsford Boulevard in Kingston. The night featured musical performances and poetry by many of Jamaica's top cultural artists. The concert was a collaborative event involving the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission and the Roskind family. Robert and Julia Roskind are Americans who first visited the island 4 years ago. They were so deeply impacted by the spirit of the nation that they have now become advocates of the One Love philosophy.
As I mentioned, 4 years ago on a family vacation like hundreds of thousands of other people. But we left and went home with our faith in humanity restored after access to your culture and your people. Like all of us, we are not immune to suffering. Is that we represent the voice of millions of people around the planet who love you and love this country for the One Love vibration you have sent out.
The Roskind family shares the government's belief, which is encapsulated in the Values and Attitudes campaign, that peace and love reside in all of us, and that if these qualities were allowed to come forth, the result would be a better society for all.
That was Bob Marley's daughter cutting the cake. Listen to the words of this song.
The concert, while celebrating Bob Marley's birthday, was also a platform to appeal to the good that is in all Jamaicans, to heal our country through music with a message of peace and love.
Bob's grandchildren.
Symbolically, the event was also a culminating point of a violence-free campaign initiated by well-known Jamaican sociologist Professor Barry Chavans.
For 6 days, a group of cyclists from various clubs, cycle clubs, took His Excellency's message across the island of Jamaica. They went through some rain, a lot of sun. They suffered many deprivations, camping out sometimes, a little hunger at times, and they have completed their journey after visiting many communities.
The message of one love that Bob Marley gave to Jamaica is being repackaged and resent to a society that has been badly battered with daily news of violence and death. The hope is that the essence of this message will take root and cause a healing in our nation.
Bob Marley's natural mystic. Bunny Whaler. He'll be right over there September 11th.
We need to be real serious about bringing some peace to Jamaica. We've been going through this gun situation where we see so much guns all over the place. Gun more than sugar, gun more than flour, gun more than rice, gun more than coffee, gun more than saltfish, gun more than iron, gun is quiet in Canada. We need to stop that one thing right now. And all the people who know that they are responsible for bringing guns to the children of Jamaica. Repent yourselves, rebuke yourselves, and cease from doing such evil act of bringing guns to the children of Jamaica. Because if it doesn't stop somewhere, one of these fine days, we're going to eat of the bitter fruits of our own doings. So we need some love, and we need some true heart. Every time, every time, every time. One love, one purpose. Give that to Jesus, and I'll be alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Praise the job, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and somebody say, oh no!
So that's Rasta Heart. Thank you. Now, in case you probably noticed by now, when I'm in Jamaica, I run on Jamaican time. When I'm with Native Americans, which is like anything within 3 to 7 hours of when they say they'll be there. When I'm with Native Americans, I run on Native American time. When there's anything within a day of when they say they'll be there. I run my camp on Jewish time. So within 5 minutes of when I say. So a couple of things. Lunch, and again, if you want to sign up to offer participants workshop, and at 12:45 in 15 minutes, Danny Diaz, hopefully he'll be in, but he runs on Guatemalan time. But I warned him. Hopefully he'll be in the Rock House so you can take your lunch over there.
Where's the Rock House?
Right next door, that stone house, right on the inside that wall. And he'll be teaching there. This afternoon, River Otter, if she'll raise her hand, who lives out at Earth Haven, will be giving a seminar. If you want to take a tour with River Otter, we need you to sign up, preferably today, tomorrow's latest. The tour is either Wednesday or Saturday. It'll cost probably between 15 to 20 bucks, depending on how many sign up. It's about a 40-minute drive from here, and it's about, what, a 2-hour tour?
2.5, yeah.
2.5-hour tour, solar, wind, organic gardening, water power, unique building, ecological building, you know. If you got any interest in that, go.
What time on Wednesday?
We'll leave. You can buy lunch here. Your lunch is not included for that day. And so you can buy your lunch here for $10, and then you'll leave from in front of their area over there at 1:15, in front of the big Arrowhead Lodge in a group of cars. Or if you want to bring your own car because you're leaving that day, you can do that. Same thing will happen on Saturday, but you won't have lunch, so we got to vacate the premises Saturday right at noon. So you'll have to get lunch on the way, and we'll get some maps to show you how to get there on Saturday. But River Otter will take everybody in caravan. You can eat here on Wednesday. So I'm going to put this up here with a pen. If you signed up for Wednesday, put yes or no. Yes if you want lunch, no if you don't want lunch. It's 10 bucks. If you sign up for Saturday, just put your name. There's no lunch offered. Is that pretty clear? So let's see, any other announcements? Let's see. I think that does it. And the so stores are open in the back with people doing it. Lunch is being served, and this afternoon we're doing